and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Loosen, loosen, baby. You don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go. Holy breath and holy name. Where you ease, will you ease this pain? Holy breath and holy name. Where you ease, will you ease this pain? Loosen, loosen, baby. You don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. So, hello everyone. I'm delighted to be here and to spend time with you, to spend Shabbat with you, to pray, to learn, and to get to know one another. I'm going to tilt this so that I can see more people. So for me, the best way to begin this journey is to take a deep breath, to be present to this moment of being together. So please join me. Let's just breathe in, being together. Present to entering Shabbat, to loosening the tension of the week, to emptying the mind of lists and deadlines and email correspondence and general busyness. On Shabbat, we're invited to rest. It's a mitzvah. In the words of Heschel, Shabbat is a 25-hour opportunity to experience the sanctuary in time. So to mark the beginning of this sanctuary in time, I'd like to invite somebody to light the candles and say the blessing. Do we have a volunteer? Please. And the bracha is on page 5. Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu le'hadlik ner shel Shabbat. So after lighting the candles, it's a custom to offer personal prayers for our families and for people we're concerned about. So I invite you to take a moment to gaze into the candle light and ask for personal blessings for your loved ones. And if you like, you may draw inspiration from readings on 2 and 4, or just say the prayers in your heart. So take a moment to do that. So we continue with the piyut, the liturgical poem, Yedid Nefesh on page 7. And we're going to do the last paragraph, Higala Na. We approach Shabbat in a divine romance as lovers. Higala Na, Ufros Chavivi Alai Sukat Shlomecha. Show yourself, reveal your light, my beloved, and cover me with your canopy of peace. Make your presence known to us. Rush, my love, be quick. The time for love has come. Higale, gale, gale, na. Ufros, chavivi alai. Et sukat, sukat, shlomecha. Higale, gale, gale, na. Ufros, chavivi alai. Et sukat, sukat, shlomecha. Higale, gale, gale, na. Ufros, chavivi alai. Et sukat, sukat, shlomecha. And we continue by inviting the angels into this space for Shabbat with Shalom Aleichem on page 13.
If anybody else from the davening team would rather be up here, just raise your hand, because one of us is going to lead some of these songs. So anybody want to lead Shalom Aleichem? Lori, come on. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seichem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
And we move to page 19. with Dodi Lee. The divine romance continues in the imagination of the Svat Kabbalists who created this service with Dodi Lee, with more words of love from the Song of Songs.
So you can see it too. It was definitely lost thread. This was
Vanilo Haroe Bashoshanim Dodili Mikuteret Morurevona Dodili 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 Vanilo Haroe Bashoshanim Dodili. So before we greet Shabbat with Lecha Dodi, we recite psalms praising God for the magnificence of creation. We will begin with an interpretive psalm, Blade of Grass Sings to the River by Leah Greenberg. And if somebody would like come up and read the poem for us, we have a volunteer. Please.
Even for the little ones like me, one among the throng, for the children of poverty on disappointment's shores, the river hums its song, lovingly hums its song. The sun's gentle caress touches it now and then, and I too am reflected in waters that flow green, and in the river's depths, each one of us is deep. My ever-deepening image, streaming away to the sea, is swallowed up, erased on the edge of vanishing. And with the river's voice, the ever-silent soul, with the river's psalm, sings praises of the world.
We continue with the end of Psalm 96 on page 27. Just double checking these pages. It's the last paragraph. It's the only paragraph on the page. Yismechu Hashamayim. So we join the natural world in praising God. Yismechu Hashamayim, Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, V'tagel haaretz. Yismechu Hashamayim, Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim. V'tagel haaretz. Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam umelo, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam umelo, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam umelo, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam umelo. Yismehu hashamayim, hashamayim, Yismehu hashamayim, hashamayim, Yismehu hashamayim, v'tagel haaretz. We continue on page 39 with Psalm 29, the last two lines. Adonai Oz la'amo yitain, Adonai yevarech et amo b'shalom. May God grant us strength and healing. Adonai oz le'amo yitain, Adonai yevarech et amo. Adonai oz le'amo yitain, Adonai yevarech et amo. Ava shalom, Ava shalom. Adonai oz le'amo yitain, Adonai yevarech et amo. Adonai oz le'amo yitain, Adonai yevarech et amo. Ava shalom, Ava shalom. We move to welcome Shabbat with Lecha Dodi on page 45. The davening team is going to lead us. I think we're doing verse 1 and 2 and 7 and 9, right?
7 and 9 or 8 or 9? 8 and 9.
8 and 9, sorry, 8 and 9.
That's right. Okay. We start low because we're going way high, okay? So don't everybody say, we can't start there, okay? Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat lekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat lekabela.
41.
Lecha dodi lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat lekabela.
41.
Pene Shabbat nekabela, Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, Hishmianu al hamuchad, Adonai echad u'shmo echad, L'shem u'tferet melutila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pene Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pene Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nilcha, Ki hi mikor habracha, Mirosh mikedem nisucha, Sof ma'aseh b'mamal shabshila. Lecha dodi, lecha dodi likrat kala, Pene Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pene P'nei Shabbat Kabbalat. Page 47. Yaminu Shmo. No, that's too low. Yaminu Shmo Tifroti Biet Adonai Chariti Al Yadish Ben Parti Benismecha Benagila Alecha Dodi Likrat Kala P'nei Shabbat Nikabela Olecha Dodi Likrat Kala P'nei Shabbat Nikabela. Please rise. Boi v'shalom. Ateret bala. Gam b'simcha u'sahala. Toch emuneh am segula boi hala olecha dodi likrat kala P'nei Shabbat Nikabela Olecha Dodi Likrat Kala P'nei Shabbat Nikabela P'nei Shabbat Nikabela.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It's here. Shabbat is here now. So it's a wonderful time to share good news, to share the news in our lives, good things that have happened since you have all last met.
I have the best news, which is that my daughter Alana had her first post-cancer screening yesterday, 3 months after she was done with treatment, and she was clean. Yes.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Beautiful. Does anybody else have something to share?
Yes.
Gabrielle.
Oh, okay. So when you share your good news, can you come to the microphone, because the people on Zoom want to hear your good news?
People on Zoom can unmute as well and share.
Yes, please. Lori, right?
Yeah, Lori, yeah.
Please. Mhm.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. So my son, Samuel Eli Lichman Michael, who got bar mitzvah here in this room 17 years ago, whose Beit Sefer class helped create that beautiful tapestry. He matched for residency this week. He's going to Case Western in University Hospital in radiation oncology. And I just am just thrilled. And he's only 3 hours away.
They're fun.
My niece Eliza, who some of you may have met, she's lived with us on a couple of occasions. She just gave birth this week to a baby boy, Elliot.
It's a time.
And I'm not here to kvel about my kid, who apparently, I hope, made it home today. She was in Washington State and got COVID there. So I don't know. But I'm up here to say, I closed on my house this week, my new house. 3 extremely long weeks, which felt like 8 years between closing on my other house and closing on this house. And it's being reconstructed, right? As we speak, and I have the paint on my hand to prove it.
Anyone else on Zoom? We have any Zoom good news? Well, there's a little song in your supplement for good news. It's a little short little song. Be'al zeh anachnu modim, toda rabah, toda rabah, toda rabah. So it just means we're thankful for what, for the news in our lives, and thank you very much, thank you very much. And it goes like this. Ve'al zeh anachnu modim, anachnu modim, anachnu modim, toda rabah, toda rabah, toda rabah, toda rabah. So let's do it one more time. Ve'al zeh anachnu modim, anachnu modim, anachnu modim, toda rabah, toda rabah, toda rabah, toda rabah. So sharing good news in our lives is wonderful. And then we move right into the Psalm for Shabbat, which is Psalm 92. And you'll find that I'm going to make sure I got the page right this time. 49. Beginning with Tov Lehodot Adonai. So it's good to share good news, and it's also good to praise God. Tov Lehodot Adonai. Just going to make a little adjustment here. There. We got it. Tov lehodot l'Adonai u'lezameh l'shimcha elyon. Tov lehodot l'Adonai u'lezameh l'shimcha elyon. Lehagid b'boker chastecha ve'emunatcha baliלות. Lehagid b'boker chastecha ואמונתך בלילות. טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון. טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון. להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות. להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות. טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון. טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון. So please, we're ready to rise for the Kaddish. And that should be on page 55. I'm double checking all my numbers now. Yitkada ve'yitkada Shemei Rabbah. V'yama divrach erotei v'yamich malchutei v'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei lechol beit Yisrael b'gala b'gala uv'zman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevorach Le'olam olol me'almaya Yitbarach Yitbarach ve'yishtabach ve'yipa'ar ve'yitramam ve'yitnaseh ve'yitadar ve'yitaleh ve'yitalal Shemei Kudsha Brichu Le'la min kol berchata ve'shirata Tushbechata v'nechemata Damiran v'alma Imru Amen. Teach you a little nigun for the Baruch Hu. I lost it. Hold on a second. I lost it. How do you like that? Oh, I got it. Okay. Yadai, 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 yadai. Second part goes yadai, 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 yadai. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach. Leolam Vaed. That is Ashkenazi Friday night Nusach only for Shema Ubirchotecha. That's the only time you hear it. Anyway. I would love, we can sit down. And so as we enter the Mariv service, I'd like somebody to read Asher Bidvaro from Mariv Aravim, the English, on page 60. Do we have a volunteer for that? Anybody want to come up and read that? Yes, please.
Yeah, that's right. There we go. Yeah, it's just an excuse for mistakes. Praised are you, God, ruler of the universe, who has ordained the rhythm of life. The day with its light calls to activity and exertion. But when the day wanes, when with the setting of the sun colors fade, we cease from our labors and welcome the tranquility of the night. The subdued light of the moon and stars, the darkness and the stillness about us invite us rest and repose. Trustfully, we yield to the quiet of sleep, for we know that while we are unaware of what goes on within and around us, our powers of body and mind are renewed. Therefore, at this evening hour, we seek composure of spirit. We give thanks for the day and its tasks, and for the night and its rest. Praised are you, God, who brings on the evening.
And so we turn the page back to 59 for the final bracha and the last line, same melody. Yadai, 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 Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim. So we now turn to 63 for Ahavat Olam. So the whole Shema Birchotecha is all about love. And so we're loved through being given guidance through Torah and mitzvot with Ahavat Olam. There we go. Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Torah u'mitzvot חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשוכבנו, ובקומנו נשיח בחוקיך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך, ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו, ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגע יומם ולילה, נגע יומם ולילה. ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל, אוהב עמו ישראל. To the Shema. Page 65. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavecha v'chol nafshecha v'chol me'odecha v'hayu ha'dvarim ha'ele asher anochi netzavecha hayom al levavecha Vishinantam levanecha, v'dibarta bam, v'shivtecha v'leitecha, uv'lechtecha v'derech, u'shachtecha u'kunecha, u'kshartam liot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot einecha, u'chtaftam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha. We continue silently and we'll return on page 73. Adonai Elohechem, Adonai Elohechem. We move to Mechamocha on page 79. Mechamocha reminds us It is possible to cross the Red Sea of the everyday and get to the other side, to loosen the bonds that hold us back, that hold our neighbors back. Michamocha. Va'elim Adonai Michamocha Neder b'kodesh Nora Tehilot Oseh Felet Malchutecha Rahuvanecha Bokei Hayam Lifnei Moshe u'Miriam Zeili Anu v'amru Adonai Yimloch le'olam va'ed V'ne'emar ki pada Adonai et Yaakov Ugalo mi'ad chazak mimenu Baruch atah Adonai Gal Yisrael. Move to Hashkivenu, beginning with Ufros Aleinu, the last on page 81. The last word of the begins with the last word of the first line. Ufros aleinu sukat sukat shelomecha ufros aleinu Sukkot, Sukkot, Shelomecha, Ufros Aleinu, Sukkot, Sukkot, Shelomecha. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. We continue with Vishamru, with words from Torah on the mitzvah of Shabbat. The davening team will lead us, and that is on page 85.
Anyone else want to come up? No? Okay. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat Lasot et ha-Shabbat L'dorotam berito lai Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz uvayom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafar.
After words of Torah about the mitzvah of keeping Shabbat, it's time for shtickle, more Torah, little dvar. So this week's portion, Vayakel Pekude, is all about creating sacred space. One of the several parshiot focused on the Mishkan. In Judaism, we do a lot of things to create sacred space. We light candles to bring in Shabbat and holidays and to remember our loved ones on a yort site. We engage in life cycle rituals. We have Shabbat and holiday dinners with our families. We go to shul and gather to pray in community just like this. And we beautify our sacred spaces with ritual objects. And I know that many of you have made beautiful ritual objects for the shul space. And sometimes we create sacred space just by being together in community. We don't need bricks and mortar, we just need to be together. But what I'd like to focus on is a more internal kind of sacred space, one that is created by being present to our thoughts, our breath, the tension in our bodies, the kind of space that's created by deep listening to the voice of others, to the inner voice, to the silence, to the unknown, to the confusing places, to the spaces in between. Ma'ariv Aravim in tonight's liturgy is all about those in-between spaces. Borei yom v'layla golel or mipnei choshech v'choshech mipnei or. In the words of the creator of the day and night, who rolls light into darkness and darkness into light. All those in-between spaces of difference, subtle difference. In the words of Levi Wyman Kelman, one of the commentators of Kohen Shabbat, dark and night, according to him, dark and night are not separate realms. They mix together. Bain, the in-between, is related to Bina, understanding. To find understanding, to find wisdom, we must distinguish between things. We must also find a way to rest in the in-between, a deeply inner space. We were talking about in-between spaces for listening over dinner, in a sense, this evening with a group at the Indian restaurant. Our Torah portion teaches us that the in-between spaces are holy. Biblical scholar Aviva Zornberg sees sacred in-between space exemplified in the description of the Holy of Holies, particularly the space between the golden cheruvim, the cherubs, that rest on top of the Ark of the Covenant. She notes that the rabbis found it strange that God commanded that the kaporet be covered with statues of golden cherubs, but yet the golden calf was not okay. So they asked, were the cherubs not idols as well? And they decided that the cherubs were not idols. They were not seen as gods to be worshipped, but rather they served to frame the space through which God spoke. That space in between the cherubim at opposite ends of the golden kaporet is the heart of the Mishkan. The cherubim gaze toward one another. They gaze, their gaze frames the intangible beyond the holy tablets and the broken tablets that are inside the Ark of the Covenant. Their gaze frames that in-between space that cannot be easily grasped or defined. The position of the cherubim was a signal to the high priest and now to us to pay attention to the in-between, to subtlety and nuance, to deeply listen both inwardly and outwardly as we search for meaning, for the truth of our yearning, of our pain and our joy, as we discover the living Torah in our lives. So what I'd like to ask you is, how do we make room in our lives to search for God or to search for what is deeply meaningful? How do we frame and hold sacred space in our lives? How do we create an inner Mishkan? What boundaries must be established, physical or otherwise? What practices would be helpful? What are the challenges? I mean, I asked a lot of questions to see what might interest you, but it's all on the subject of that sacred inner Mishkan. How do we create it in our lives? So if people have comments, please come to the front and share them.
Thank you. I am listening to you and I'm looking at the doves and the sacred space that they're forming. Thank you.
I love being between the doves. Does anyone else have something that they'd like to say? Anyone on Zoom?
Sort of a short mic for me. I guess I'd just like to suggest that, when we're looking to form a sacred space in ourselves, that part of that comes in learning not to reject any part of ourselves, because we all have ugly parts or angry parts or afraid parts, but those are all still parts of us, and that, that's all part of the walls and columns that form this space.
I guess Shabbat is a sacred space, because in this life where we have horrible news and we have a struggle with our life and rushing, it's nice to have a day where you stop everything and you can read a philosophical book or take a walk in the garden or pray. And it's really nice to have this sacred space. I feel Shabbat is really important for our mental sanity, to keep us sane and safe one day where we are in communion with our God. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I don't have if the technology is working. When you spoke about the spaces in between, I am right now in person at a conference that I was last in person at 3 years ago, right before everything shut down. And your invitation for us to look for the sacred and to look at those in between spaces, it feels like there is this abyss of 3 years of difficulty. And I feel like, okay, I'm ready to be on the other side of that. But it's helpful reminder to look at the sacred. And I think Dave said that sometimes those spaces are not spaces we want to be dwelling on, or we need to look at the beautiful as well as the ugly. And it just feels like a reminder to look with gratitude at what's coming, but also to look at that liminal space that we may not have liked so much, and find and remember that it was sacred too. Because I'm ready to be done with it, but remember that it was sacred too is a useful reminder.
Thank you. So I give people a moment in case they have a final thought. Okay. So as we move back into davening, I'd like us to to just create a little bit of attention to that inner sacred space, to sit quietly, bring your attention to the breath, relax into a comfortable rhythm. Maybe you want to pay attention to the space between your inhalation and exhalation. The in-between space, like, I don't know your name. Yeah, behind, you spoke of Shabbat space. Odile talked about Shabbat being an in-between space, a place to rest, a place to listen for the inner voice, for the voice of insight, or just for the voice of, just gonna rest. Holy breath and holy name, will you ease this pain? Holy breath and holy name, will you ease this pain? When you're ready, turn to the Amidah on page 91. We'll pray silently and come back with Oseh Shalom. The end. Oseh Shalom. Oops. Doesn't sound good. Oseh Shalom Bimrama Huyaseh Shalom Ve'al kol Yisrael ve'emeru amen. Oseh Shalom Bimrama Huyaseh Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'emeru amen. Oseh Shalom Bimromav Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'al kol Yisrael ve'emeru amen. Oseh Shalom Bimromav Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'al kol Yisrael ve'emeru amen. So, after praying for peace and wholeness, we offer more specific prayers of healing. Instead of doing the Misha Berach, on your handout, I have 5 simple words. Al na rafanala, God please heal her. These were words that Moshe said to pray for healing for his sister Miriam. And what I like about these words is they're simple. You know, our liturgy sometimes is very verbose, and it's nice just to have something simple to say, and that is also very meaningful. And the other thing that I'd like to share with you is that I've set these words to a Ukrainian folk lullaby. And so my hope is that we don't just pray for people we know, but that we also bring people into our hearts who are suffering outside our personal knowledge. But before we get into that, if you'd like to share the names of people you're praying for, this is the time to do that. If you want to share.
Ilana Rose and Ben Fox, Isla Digger,
Nancy Meadow.
Private Harrison, Susan Audrey, Stephen Richmond, and TV.
On Zoom, or are there names you'd like to share when on Zoom? Rachabat, Chava, Vizavula, Savannah, Janet. Carol, I saw your hand up. No? Oh, anyone else? I'd like to add prayers for my brother, Aubrey Bernstein, and my friend, Harry Ravinsky and Jeffrey Taub. So it's Anna Elna Rafanala. We can bring in people suffering from the violence of war, the violence of guns, oppression, in addition to our beloveds. Ana Elna So we come to Aleinu. To think of Aleinu as we do all this davening, we think about how to be better people, how to connect to Torah, how to connect to what's meaningful to God and everything. And then Aleinu is like, let's bring all of this wisdom, let's integrate it all and bring it into the world. Let's leave the shul with this understanding and let it change our lives. To me, that's what Aleinu is about. So we're going to invite Lori, are you going to? Okay. Okay. All right, so it's page 121. Please stand. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'teit gedula le'otzer bereshit, shenatan lanu torat emet, v'chayei olam natav b'tochenu. V'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Lemelech al kol haaretz, bayom hahu yiyeh Adonai echad u'shmo echareinu. So we come to the Mourner's Kaddish, and it's another chance to share the names of people that we're saying Kaddish for. If there's anyone here who is in Shloshim or the first year of mourning or just came out of a Shiva.
I'm in the first year of mourning, saying Kaddish for my stepdad, Arnie Fuller, of Meyer, and 2 years.
Okay. And anyone who's, oh, yes. Okay.
How's that the same Kaddish for Miriam Reese, who works with the ACC, comes to sometimes her husband just died, 32 years old, Alice Maxwell.
We had in Berkeley, we started people's and she's diagnosed.
And is anyone honoring a yort site? No. My grandmother, Clara Riva. My father, Merton Bernstein. And anyone else saying Kaddish for people who, other friends or others. Anybody on Zoom? No? Okay, let's stand as we're able. Say Kaddish. Yikadal v'yikadash Shnei Rabbah v'yalma divra cherutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayei chon uvyomei chon uvchayei d'chol Beit Yisrael bagala ubizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam omei almaya. Yibarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kudsha le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran v'alma v'imru amen. Yehei Shlomo Rabbah min Shemaya v'chayim aleinu yal kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. Their memories be for a blessing. And do we have announcements?
Okay, so first of all, I want to welcome Gabrielle and say that I'm so excited, and I know many of you are so excited for her to be here. So thank you so much for being here tonight. So everybody please stay. We have a ton of dessert and fruit after, and schmooze for a little bit, and tea. And then tomorrow morning we have a Shabbat service at 10:30. And then we have a catered lunch at the JCC directly after. And if you think you're going to come and you haven't RSVP'd yet, please let us know. After that, we have an adult education session, and that'll be hybrid, followed by an informal Q&A. And there's sign up for those events online as well. After that, there's going to be a dinner at Jeff and Rena's house, and I think there's still a few spots, 3 spots left. And then Havdalah at Paul and Caroline's house, and they've graciously opened up their house to about 40 people. So I think there's still many spots available for that one too. And then Sunday morning, the last opportunity will be, well, Gabrielle will be meeting with Bates Sayfair parents at 10, and then a lunch at Debbie Gambert's house. And I think there's a few spots left for that one too. And then next weekend, there's our normal 4th Friday Shabbat, and that'll be Idel and Harry's service that was rescheduled from last month. And they're super excited. It's going to be a really good service. They've worked double hard on it. They've had lots of time. Okay, and then another thing that's happening is Monday the 27th is Joyful Jams. Batya Levine, who Rabbi Ora played a lot of her music during COVID. She's playing at the Ark at 6:30. And Allie Halpert. Oh yeah, we just sang that song today. Yeah, yeah. And it's free. Yes. Wow. Yeah. Yes. So okay, and then some folks from our congregation have been organizing a film showing of the Refusing to Be Enemies Zaytuna story film, followed by a speaker panel of the Zaytuna sisters. And that's going to be here on April 23rd at 2:00. And we're spreading the word widely amongst the Jewish community about this event. So we want to make sure that our people are able to come. So space will be kind of limited. So make sure that you sign up for that too. All right, did I miss anything? You want to come up, Claudia? Yeah.
If anybody's going to be at some of the, if anybody is going to the Ark Asherman event or the Jewish jams at the Ark, these are, or the Irene Butter event that are all coming up in the next few weeks. People don't know what I'm talking about. Okay. If you're going, if people would want to take any of these flyers for refusing to be enemies for the film showing, we wanted to really get the word out. And we've talked to people, our committee has contacted people all over the Jewish community, but we thought that it might be good to also put out these flyers at those events, just to put a pile of them somewhere. So if anybody wants them, I got a whole bunch made. Okay. An article in the Washington Jewish News coming up that Leora and Claire says, yes, it will be in. And Leora wrote a beautiful article. So thank you. So we're going to bring things to a close with the priestly blessing. And so if there are children, who is in charge of getting? There are no children. Okay, so then it's just us chickens who are going to get the blessing. And so we're inviting the davening team up for that. And the page is 349.
Yevarech Adonai v'yishmarecha Ken Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichunecha Ken yehi ratzon Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yashemecha shalom Ken yehi ratzon Ken yehi ratzon.
Beautiful way to end. Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.